Hey, this is Dale Callahan. Hopefully we got a connection here. My feed here is not necessarily showing up correctly, but we'll find out whether it captures or not. It's showing live. I'm Dale Callahan with AskDrCallahan, and we are talking a little bit today about the course of Algebra. And how do you teach algebra in your home, and especially from the homeschool curriculum? One of the questions we constantly get from people is just, how do I do that? How do I teach these courses that maybe I don't know, or maybe I never took, and if I did, I probably forgot about them. And it seems overwhelming because it's a relatively complex subject, at least at face value. So I wanted to share a couple of ideas about what you might do to help you teach algebra in your home. And the first thing is just finding a curriculum that's right. And one of the things that we're always trying to get through to people is that begin with the end in mind. You don't want to pick a curriculum that gets you through the year. You want to pick a curriculum that gets you to your long-term goal, where you're trying to get to. So for instance, you don't want to pick a curriculum that's just super easy, just to say and check off the box and say that, hey, I've got that done, when you may be college bound. And you want to pick a curriculum that's college prep if we're got a son or a daughter that may be heading toward a college career. So you want to be thinking about that. You also want to be thinking about a course that that you can ask questions, and that's complete. In other words, think about the curriculum as your toolbox. You are the faculty in the homeschool, and you need some tools in the toolbox to help you, and the curriculum can do that. It doesn't replace the teacher, but it can do most of the work for you. It can do all the heavy lifting, especially if you've got videos. So when you're looking for a curriculum, you think about what it is that you want the curriculum to do. Do you need videos? Does your student work best with videos? Do you need a textbook? I mean, the textbook that we use for algebra, at least, is Jacob's Elementary Algebra. Do you need a textbook? Do you need problem sets? Do you need the test? Do you need the solutions? Those kind of things are what you need to think about as the faculty member of the tool set you need. When we pick a tool for the university and what course, if we're going to teach a course in the university, that's what we look at. We look at what content do we need, what do we need to deliver, what kind of tools do we need to go along with it. So we will evaluate curriculum, textbooks, and other resources that will go along to fit the needs of the course. And we're always thinking about what's the end game. We can't just think about a course in context in the university. We always think about a course, how it fits in the overall curriculum for the degree. What's the student learning? And that's what you need to be thinking about, is find that curriculum that's the right subject, that's the right fit for you and your goals. So some of the things that we get is hey, my kids are not college prep. They're not heading through college. But that doesn't mean that the mathematics skills, you don't want to hamper your children, obviously, by saying they don't have any skills whatsoever in math or algebra. These are fairly frequently used skills. As a matter of fact, if you look on our Facebook page, where you're seeing this probably, if you look on our Facebook page, we have posts all the time about algebra and geometry and trigonometry and these regular things being used. And there's one on there right now about quilting. If you're developing a quilt, all the relationships that go on in the quilting. So when you're looking for a curriculum, those are the things you're looking for. One other thing that I would be looking for from a homeschool parent point of view, and that when we do curriculum for our kids, is something that we can ask questions. We can engage with the people who develop the curriculum. We can get help. What I don't want, I don't like getting a material from somebody and then it being a void where you cannot reach out to them and ask some questions. Clarification. There's always errors. There's always things that seem really, really clear to the authors of the material, but they're not clear to you. And so you need to be able to reach out. So that's what I'm looking for. Is number one is you finding the curriculum. And again, all this stuff I'm talking about is the fit. Number two, second step in doing this and teaching algebra, and I'm really focused on algebra right now, but is don't be controlled by the curriculum. You are the teacher. The curriculum does not control you. One of the things that in our course, in our curriculum, people will often ask us is, why don't you cover all the different chapters of the textbook? Why do you do things this way? Because again, the curriculum is a tool. And just because I have a tool in my toolbox doesn't mean I need to use it. Just because there's a hammer there, I don't have to go around and banging everything that looks like a nail. The curriculum is a guide. But you control it. You don't have to follow it exactly, and you can make sense. So for instance, if we look at our curriculum, we have in our curriculum a syllabus and a guide, which we'll hit in just a minute. But we have in here a syllabus and a guide that kind of guides you through what we think makes good sense for you to work in terms of problem sets. But it's really up to you, and especially if you're saying, well, my son or daughter's already covered this kind of content before. I don't need to cover this because I think they've already got this subject down. That's fine. You again are the faculty that you make these decisions. And again, think about all these things as a tool in your toolbox to help you, because the goal here is not to cover a subject. The goal is to not take this textbook and read every word of it. The goal is for you to prepare your son and daughter to move to the next level, not to be an expert. We're not looking for expertise, and we're not looking for people who can regurgitate everything that there is to know about algebra back, but that they would just understand conceptually what's going on. So number one was finding the right curriculum that fits you. Number two is not being controlled by that curriculum as a parent. So number three, to help you teach algebra, is use a syllabus. A good curriculum is going to come with a syllabus. And by a syllabus, it's just a fancy name for, here's the guiding post, here's the map. And so in our syllabus, we kind of give you a suggestion of what we think should happen week by week. So if we're live in a classroom, what happens week to week? So if you've been in a college classroom, you know that we, the faculty, will sometimes at least hand you out a syllabus that say, here's where we're going, here's the path we're going down. On this week, we're going to do this. On this, we're going to work these problems, go do these assignments. And that's what the syllabus should help you in. And so in ours, it says, cover this chapter, review the DVD or the video material on these chapters, and then work these problems. And guess what? We don't even suggest working every problem. Like I'm looking here in chapter 9.1 or chapter 9, lesson 1, work problems 3, 6, 9, 10, 13, and 16. Well, there's probably 27 or 35 problems in that section. We particularly have picked out a set number of problems that we think get you to where you need to be. So the syllabus can be a guide. But again, you're in control, but the syllabus really helps you. It's kind of like that map that you see where things are going, and it helps you see what's going on. So again, find the curriculum that works. Don't be controlled by the curriculum. Use the syllabus. Hopefully it's provided by the curriculum. Number 4, and I cannot stress this one enough, the goal is not perfection. The goal is not that your son or daughter is going to be the best algebra student around. That's not even close to the goal. Even if they're heading toward a STEM, which is STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which are pretty rigorous mathematically. When we look at the field of engineering in particular, you walk into college and you're just doing one math after another math after another math, very deep math. But even though we're not looking for perfection, we're not looking for you to be a mathematical expert. What we're looking for is you to understand, or your son or daughter to understand some basic things. And by the way, the ACT and the SAT exam are looking for the same kind of things. So for instance, to solve the equation minus 2x squared plus 20x equals 10. Well, and probably at that you're probably turning off this video now. But that's fine. It's fine to find the x. But actually what we would rather you be able to do is say, I can go outside and throw this ball up in the air, and that ball goes up in an arch pattern that we're so familiar with. And anybody that's played any kind of ball or any kind of sport or done anything, you throw that ball up in the air, it goes in this arch pattern. And for your son or daughter to recognize that arch pattern is described, the motion of that ball is described by a quadratic equation. Because it's not that they do the math, but they can just see in the nature around them and see that this is all being described. I mean, look, mathematics is nothing but a language. It's just a language. Just as you might teach grammar, grammar is not the end in itself. Being able to read and write is the end. So in mathematics, that's not the end. Mathematics is kind of that language that nature is. So anytime you see things happen in nature, when I do X, Y happens, right? When I do something, this happens. It can be cooking on a stove. It can be as you're driving down the road, your tire, the tire gets hot and it has more air pressure as it drives down the road. There's a mathematical relationship that describes that. And so the ball going up in the air, how far the ball goes and how it travels and that parabola it travels in is a mathematical relationship. That's what we're trying to get, is not turn everybody into a bunch of geeks that are running around looking at math, but just to recognize that everything that happens in nature, everything that happens has a relationship, and it happens all the time on the job. Again, this is why you want them to be able to understand is, somebody gives me a certain area to fence and they give me a certain amount of fence. I need to be able to realize there's a relationship between the amount of area I cover and the perimeter, which is the amount of fence. And just recognizing these things is this is the mathematics part of that. Because while it's the language, it's the grammar, the result, the reading and writing is the science, is the real life, is the economics, is all the stuff that goes on. So again, we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for our student to understand conceptually what's going on. It's much better that they understand conceptually. And let me just give you a quick example of why that's so important. A lot of curriculum are exceedingly watered down as we head toward college or toward anything, really. They're just, and especially in the homeschool world, we're very guilty of this too. That we really water down the curriculum to where we're just making it easier for Johnny and Susie to do the problems. But they're missing the concepts, not because it's watered down, but because they got so focused on doing the math, doing the grammar, instead of understanding the math. And when you take the ACT and SAT, so think about this for just a minute. Traditionally, and we change these exams all the time, but traditionally these exams you have about 1 minute per question mathematically. About 1 minute to get the answer. So, and you have 4 possible answers. So if you're teaching Johnny and Susie just to go grunt work and do all the math and try to get all the math and try to understand everything, and by doing it, they don't have time. What you've got to be able to do on the ACT, the SAT, and by the way, the reason they test that way is because it shows for understanding, is your students should be able to look at that problem and say, you know what, I know that's not A and it's not C. I'm going to strike those out. So now I have to figure out, how do I decide between B and D? I hope I said all that right. But how do I decide which one it is by process of elimination? Because I can just look at, and again, that ball, that figure of the throwing a baseball, you should be able to just look at things and recognize, yeah, that doesn't make sense, so it's got to be these. That's the understanding that you're looking for. So the goal, again, is not perfection. So the last point, which is related, number 5, is stick to about 1 hour of work. Pace it. Or no more than 1 hour. It might be 30 minutes. We talk to a lot of people who that they're having their son or daughter do 2, 3, 4 hours of math work a day. and they don't like it. You know, it's not like Johnny and Susie are saying, let me go do some more math. It's like we're forcing them, we're cramming it down their throat. In some curriculum, they just have you do so many problems, just over it. It's that drill, 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 drill. That sounds like a good idea, but you're not really learning. You know, what you're doing is you're teaching, number one, hatred of a subject. You're getting burnout, and you're not really understanding because you never have any time to process. You do a lot better to do a little bitty chunks of things a day, up to an hour, and then have time for it to process in the real world. Just cramming something down somebody's throat is just not that effective. Matter of fact, I think it's counter-effective, you know, or it works counter to your goal. I'm not sure counter-effective is a word, but it works counter to your goal of trying to get them to understand the material. So those are the 5 things: is find the curriculum that works for you. And again, let me just throw in there that be cautious as you have kids heading into high school years that are maybe pre-college, or at least you want to keep that as an alternative, that you don't go down the watered down route. Just don't go there. There's so much out there that's just watered down mathematics and science and material that you actually can damage, or you can make it more complex for your son or daughter to get into some of these high power STEM careers. Which is, we wrote the email on the other day, you know, the top highest paying careers that have undergraduate degrees in the top 20 are all sciencey engineering type stuff. It may not be your son or daughter's bent, but don't handicap them by just going and doing the easy thing and checking off the box. There's plenty of curriculum out there, ours, and even other people that have good stuff that will help you use a tool for you and your homeschool. Again, and number 2, don't be controlled by the curriculum. You're the guide, you're the teacher, and use the syllabus, hopefully provided by the curriculum. And the goal, again, is not perfection. It's understanding, conceptually understanding the material. Stick to about 1 hour a day. So let me just throw one other thing in there. So this is number 6. So this is free material. So if you hated math, or you're one of those people that used to run around saying, when will I ever use this in real life? Don't poison your son or daughter by saying, here's this book, here's this crazy curriculum, just you go do it. And I hated math because, you know, that is contagious. So just kind of check your attitude about what you're doing. Think about, and if you can kind of have fun with it and realize this is just nothing but relationship type stuff. So we're understanding relationships. So thank you, Jennifer. I'm seeing this question here. And by the way, this is the first time we've done these Facebook Live things. We're going to probably start doing a lot of these. Because it's a great way to get information out. We just get so many calls and so many questions, and we feel like we can answer a lot more questions via doing some email and doing these things. But what if your student, it takes them longer than an hour just to finish the assignment? So the first thing is, I'm just like, just break it up. You know, so we have a curriculum here, and we get this question a lot in our syllabus. I don't know if you can even see that on the video, but it has things in which you should be in a week, and we get a lot of people who will call us and they'll be like freaking out because 1 or 2 reasons. I mean, obviously the most common is my son or daughter is not keeping up with the curriculum. So if your son or daughter is not keeping up with the curriculum because it's taking them a long time to do it, and maybe that's the question Jennifer is asking here, then it's possible that they just need more time. But again, you should just adjust, be okay. If somebody, it takes them, you have a 9-month course, or that's not quite the way it works out, but 2-semester course in algebra, and it takes them a year and a half, that's fine. You know, right now you have the luxury of them doing that. So that's one thing, is don't sweat the details too much. And I'll tell you this that might surprise you, is that in the university, in engineering, the calculus is what kills the students out of engineering, wipes them out of engineering. So you would think getting your son or daughter in through up to calculus would be the right thing to do, and it is if they work through it. But what kills them in calculus is not calculus, because calculus really is not, forget all of its reputation, is not that hard of a course. It's only about two things. That's it. That's conceptually understanding what it is. What kills them is they don't really understand algebra good enough. It's that fundamental skill that they rushed through algebra, they did it in school, and then they get somewhere and they realize. Trust me, when I was in engineering school, I remember sitting in calculus course doing the work, not having a clue while I was doing what I was doing. I got through a lot of my engineering degree not knowing what the heck was going on, because I just didn't understand, and it finally, some of the things clicked for me. So if they're not making it through that, I wouldn't get too worked up about it. So one of the things is, what are they doing? Are they using their time wisely? So obviously, like our son, he can doodle for 45 minutes and work for 15, or maybe I'm even being too generous there, but because his mind wanders, we all get that. But one of the things that you might also look for is, are they in the weeds? Are they spending too much time working too hard? For instance, a lot of the questions we get especially in geometry, the student is overthinking it. What the course will actually be asking them to do, or the author of the book will actually be asking them to do, is count. How many triangles do you see? And they're in there trying to do all this mathematical proof. Just count them. He wants you to do that. And we get all that all the time. So sometimes you can just look over the shoulder and say, tell me what you're doing. But here's a wonderful trick. Because sometimes you're noticing people are going slow, and you're suspicious that they don't get it, or you're not really sure. As a teacher, they're using a curriculum and you're not really engaged, and so you really can't understand. What we do is do the whiteboard trick, or piece of paper or whatever. My wife will actually get, when the kids were younger, get sidewalk chalk, go out to the driveway and say, have them teach her. And sometimes she wouldn't tell them that's what was going on, but she would have them explain what they were learning. And so when you're getting into algebra or any more complex subject, is just say, and this is where you don't even have to be an expert, just say, show me what you're doing. Come to the whiteboard and explain it. You work the problem for me and explain it. And you don't have to get too worried about being an expert or remembering and refresh on your algebra, but you can just ask those silly, dumb questions like, why did you do that? Explain that. The biggest part of learning, or one of the biggest tricks to learning material, is to teach it. And so if you can get your son or daughter, especially if you're finding them hanging up or struggling with something, just to stop and say, just come teach me, or whatever will work for them. Our oldest daughter, she used to line up, or maybe it was my wife who was saying, they would line up their teddy bears and teach them. And in that, talking through a subject helped them to learn it. So hopefully that will give you some things to do just to do it. But again, you kind of got to sit back and look and analyze. And again, if you've got somebody you can ask questions of, you can kind of ask these questions in detail. We'll talk to parents a lot of times that will give us some specifics. One other thing is, if they got a curriculum and the curriculum just has hundreds of problems for them to do a week, and some of them they're just extraordinary, the amount of problems there are. Maybe you just got too much stuff to do. I would, there's never a single answer, but I think that might help you to kind of think through, what's really going on, what's the problem. My gut feel on most of those things is that there's a lack of understanding, that you're busy doing the work, but you don't really understand. Think about it, because when you're reading grammar, so think about when you were learning to read, or if you're teaching a child to read, and they're having to sound out every letter, and how excruciating it is to listen to them read a page or a paragraph, because they're having to sound out every letter, and they will come to the word dog, and then a few minutes later they'll come to the word dog again, and they'll be sounding out the dog, you know, and you're like, you just saw it, you just said it, you just learned the word. But what's happened is they're learning the sounds and they're learning to process, but they haven't really learned and grasped the words yet. Sometimes in math, that's what we're seeing, is people are busy. They get that pen and paper and they just go at solving the problem, and they don't stop and say, what's going on? And so a lot of times that's the problem that keeps them, that makes things really, really slow, because they're taking an excruciatingly long time to do and solve a problem. So let me just hit the, I'll hit the high spots here because I know people kind of jump in. But again, we're looking at some of the things. It's just finding a good curriculum that works for your algebra, and you being in control. And I just cannot stress enough how important that is. You as the faculty, just don't let some crazy nut write a curriculum and you just follow it blindly. You're the teacher. Use the curriculum as a tool, and use your syllabus that's given to them as a guide. And remember, it's about understanding. It is about the student understanding the concepts more than actually doing the work. And oddly enough, when they understand the concepts, the work becomes easier. They move faster. And then try to stick to about an hour a day, or no more than an hour. Now look, there's times, I'll say this on this last part, I know there's times that you may end up with more, that there may be an hour and a half sometimes, that sometimes there may be 15 minutes. I realize that's a moving target, but what we mean is use your brain. You know, if you're not if you're doing it for 2.5 hours a day every day, or if it's taking 2 hours every day, then something else is wrong there. So anyway, that's some things to help you. If you've got questions for us, you can shoot us a comment here on Facebook. We'll answer. You can also email us at support@AskDrCallahan.com. That's support@AskDrCallahan.com. Next week, we will be doing the same thing. At least that's our plan. We'll just see how the plan goes. But we'll be doing the same thing and kind of talking through some of the other subjects and some hints about how do you handle these subjects. But listen, we're here to help you guys and you gals that are trying to struggle to use these tools in your home. So if we need to cover a subject to help you, we'd love to do it. It'd be awesome. It'd be a great honor. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great night.